All right, I just want to share something with you guys that happened back in 2008, 2009. A lot of things transpired where I was literally coming out of the Babylonian system wholeheartedly, not walking the fence and trying to, serve two masters at once. And anyway, I was reading all kinds of stuff and praying a lot, and obviously I was getting into the Word and knew that something wasn't right, and that America is not who she says she is, and we're very haughty and proud and arrogant, and we act like we don't do anything wrong. And really, ultimately, I had to recognize myself as far as who I was. And anyway, I just gotten married. This was back in '09, and it wasn't long after we got married, my wife and I had this dream that at the time I didn't know was a dream. But I woke up and I sat up on the end of the bed, and I walked over to the window because I heard a commotion going on, and I looked out through our second-story window, and my house had actually kind of been placed 1 block south, right in the main intersection of town. And the town seemed kind of somewhat desolate anyway. Now that I look back, there wasn't a lot of traffic or anything, and the noise that I heard was a military truck, a convoy of trucks, and one of these trucks stopped right in the 5 points of my little town. And all of the troops had on outfits that looked like stormtrooper outfits made out of Legos, so to speak. They're really weird. They almost had these giant breastplates on that almost made them look like a Christmas tree. Anyway, when they got out, they slapped down a giant tripod, almost like a camera tripod, and they, had these, guns or whatever that were built into the tripod that they would slap down and stick in the asphalt. And immediately this thing started spinning around in circles. And as it started spinning around in circles, as the frequency grew higher and higher, I could hear people screaming in pain. And obviously I was looking at this going, what is going on? What's going on? And as I knew that everyone else was having pain, it wasn't affecting me. And I'm like, well, these outfits, I know these outfits are to keep them safe from whatever this is, whatever weapons they're using, or biological or nuclear or whatever. And I turned and looked to see if my wife was okay. I thought she may have been dead, laying in bed asleep. And I went over and I knew that we were in trouble. And I went over and I grabbed her and I put my hand over her mouth. I said, don't say a word, don't make any noise, let's go, we gotta go, follow me. And we ran out of the house, we ran through the basement, through the stairs and the garage, and jumped the fence, and we went a couple blocks away. And I just knew as we were kind of jogging in between houses that there was a car right over there. I need to go get that car. It was like an information download, go get that car, you can use that car to get away. So we went and grabbed that car, and we took off into the country, and we ended up in this little town where it's not even really a town. I don't even know if they have a post office, but there's a church there, and I knew the pastor. And so as we pulled in the parking lot of this church, I told my wife, I said, here, and I kicked the back door in of the church. I said, go hide behind the water heater. And so she went in, and as I saw her go there, I shut the door behind her. And across the parking lot, there's a house that has an apartment on the back side of it that's on the second floor. Well, I knew the guy that lived there. I went to high school with him, and I wanted to warn him because his truck was there. And I went running up his steps to tell him, hey, look, here's what's going on. And as I got up to the top of the stairs, I went up to the door, and I was beating on the door. And as I was beating on the door, some guy came around the corner, and he had this just really bizarre look to him. And when I looked at him, I knew, I'm like, that's not a person. That's not a real person. That's a demon. That's actually Satan himself. And the way he looked, it was like he could transform his face, but he looked me dead in the eye, and he just laughed as he was coming to the door to open the door. Well, as he was coming towards me, I heard a noise in the background of me, and I ended up turning around to look. And when I turned around to look, I could see over this railroad tracks through a field, and people were running, by the dozens. And those military trucks were behind them, those same trucks that I awoke into in front of my house in the streets. And they had those tripod things on the top of them going like this in a circle, and the people were grabbing their heads and dropping to the ground. And as they were doing that, the trucks were coming and driving up over them. Now the troops had no emotion. They were standing on the back. They just stood there and they just watched. It was like precise, like go get them, and they were just going and making these maneuvers. Well, as I was trying to figure out which way to go, I turned and looked and saw the guy standing there in the house still. Immediately there was an earthquake, and when the earth started to tremble and shake, it started to shake the deck, the 2-story deck that I was on, away from the house. And so I jumped up on the rail, and when I jumped, I grabbed onto the roof of the house, and I could actually feel the shingles. And this, let me tell you guys, this was so real that I dreamed in color, I dreamed with sound that was just crazy. I dreamed of smell. The whole thing was very vivid. But when I grabbed onto the roof, my momentum swung me into the house, and when I swung into the side of the house, I actually went through the house and landed in the bed. Landed in like a bed, and when I realized what happened, and as I was thinking the roof was collapsing in on me, I put my hands up, I woke up sitting in my bed doing this. And when I woke up from this dream or this vision, I woke up and I turned around and looked, and my wife was laying in the exact same position that she was laying in my dream. And that stuck with me, and I thought, what is that? Well, about 2 weeks later, my wife and I were getting ready to leave for Norway. We had sold everything in our house, and I'm sorry, 2 months later, not 2 weeks later, about 2 months later, my wife and I were getting ready to leave for Norway. And we were just driving through town, through South Bend, and I saw one of those trucks that I had in my dream that I had never seen before. I had never seen this thing, and it almost looks like a Humvee, but it's huge, it's humongous. It's almost like the love child of a Humvee and a semi. And so when we saw this, it was just crazy that I actually saw that truck. It was kind of like confirmation then. So the other one that I wanted to share with you, the other dream that I want to share with you, and present that to the Lord. Bottom line is at that time I had been reading a lot and praying a lot, and knowing that we were Babylon, that we were the judgment that's coming, the daughter, the judgment's coming to. That it's not in Iraq, it's not the Babylon in Iraq. I actually had to sit with my mom's minister for a couple hours and go back and forth, and nothing against him, but I mean, he's one of those pastors that he's so wrapped up in the church, and when I say that, I'm not taking anything against him. Maybe that's where the Lord has him, but I also know that Jesus tells us to keep watch, and that we should know some of these things and be as wise as the serpent. And this pastor didn't even know what the Council on Foreign Relations was. He did not have a clue about how the Federal Reserve worked, so he didn't really know about the enemy as far as who they really are and how the occult is embedded in so much. And maybe he does, I don't know. Maybe he was trying to play me. But anyway, long story short, I tested that in the spirit. I know what I got then, but I was a coward. I was a coward to share that dream. And for whatever reason, the Lord waited on me, and I wasn't going to share this until I prayed right before. And I was actually on the phone with Johnny, my buddy Johnny, and Clay was in the background, but I was on the phone with Johnny, and anyway, we just had some really crazy confirmations, but I wanted to share this with you. I said, Lord, do I share this? And this is the word I got. Do I share this? Do I warn everybody of what's coming? And now it's not going to focus. Murder. And right underneath it, multitudes. There you go.